Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. So if you check my playlist, there is a playlist called UK versus US, and that's a concept they came up with to discuss artists that are really big in the UK or in Europe, but virtually unknown in the United States, or at best a cult artist. I did a video on Paul Weller and the Jam. I did a video on Status Quo, and it just occurred to me a little while ago, I'm like, this is a band I really like, and they're like unknown in the United States pretty much, and that's the Manic Street Preachers. And they are an institution across the pond. I mean, they're a stadium level band over in the UK, and here in the US, I don't know if there's not too many people who've heard of them. They're at best a cult artist. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through their career. I'm going to tell you their UK chart placings and if they ever charted an album in the United States, so you could really compare it. That's the idea. They formed in '86 initially. Four guys in the band initially. You got Nicky Wire on bass. You got James Dean Bradfield on lead guitar, rhythm guitar, lead vocals. You got Sean Moore on drums. And then for a bit, you got Richey Edwards, who was really the co-lyricist. He played rhythm guitar to a certain extent we'll talk about. They're a fascinating story. If anything, I would have thought they would catch on in America just because of Richey Edwards' story. Because if you know, like, what was that, Eddie and the Cruisers, or people used to talk about Jim Morrison, is he really deceased? Well, Richey Edwards disappeared and he's never been found. It's an amazing story, and we'll talk about it more as I go through. But it's one of those mythological rock and roll stories that you would think, even from that aspect, would have caught on in the States, but it didn't. Manic Street Preachers, they started really as like a punk band. They were kind of glam looking, but over time they expanded their sound greatly. They changed their look because they got older, and they are one of the most political and really, I think, the most literate band ever. I mean, when you look at their lyrics, and maybe I'll show you some of them, it's just incredible. The Richey Edwards stuff initially, when we look at the Holy Bible, the lyrics are just insane. Really literate. They get stuff in between the songs where they have quotes. Maybe in a way they were too smart for American audiences. It's possible. Anyway, their first album was this guy, and this was Generation Terrorist. Came out in 1992. It peaked at 13 in the UK, did not chart in America. It did really well, but maybe there was a little bit of a backlash because, man, they were cocky. They said they were going to sell 16 million records and they were going to have endless hits. They tried. They got like 5 singles off of this album. What are the ones that I really like? Well, you got Slash and Burn. The big one, Motorcycle Emptiness. That's a great one. That was a biggie. And what else is here? You Love Us, is that on here? Yeah. Stay Beautiful, that's a real good one too. So it's a long album. This thing's got 18 tracks on it. But this was their first album. What did they sound like? Sometimes they were very punkish at first, I found. So kind of Clash-like, early Clash-like. But they definitely even have like that Seattle sound, like Alice in Chains-like, and even Guns N' Roses. I hear Guns N' Roses in them as well. So they're kind of an interesting mix. Now you can see the records better. So that was Generation Terrorist in '92. 1993, they put out the follow-up called Gold Against the Soul. And you can see it's still got the price tag on because I have not listened to this particular album enough to even make it in my database yet. They're a work in progress for me. I have a lot of the records, so I'm kind of proud of myself. As you cross the pond would say, not bad for a Yank, but I've been taking them slow. I pretty much do 1 or 2 albums of the year, 1 or 2 albums of theirs per year. So I still have them in my backlog. This album didn't get as good as a reputation of Generation Terrorist, but it did pretty well in 1993. Peaked at number 8, had 3 singles. And what are the ones that I know? Well, for sure. What is it called? From Desperate, I can't even see. La Tristesse, I can't even see it here in the dark. Du Port, that's a really cool track. I'll show it to you there. There it is. La Tristesse du Vera, that's a really good one. Like that one a lot. The title track I like a lot as well. From Despair to Where. That's a really good one, too. But this was their second album. Peaked at number 8. Pretty good. And that was their second album. Their third album is a legendary album, although it started off, didn't do so great initially. And now it's a legendary album. That's this one called The Holy Bible. And it has become a legendary record, also because of Richey Edwards. So this one's got a bigger, wider sound, still a lot of punkish kind of stuff. And in fact, I got the 10th anniversary edition, which I've been playing. And that's this. And this thing is a huge package. It opens up. It's got 2 CDs and a DVD and the history of this album. This is a really cool, lot of literate stuff in here. They were going through a lot of different styles, really dark lyrics. The lyrics were written by Richey Edwards, who was theoretically the rhythm guitar player, but he didn't really play it that much. But he was really writing like autobiographical stuff. He was going through a lot. The album covers prostitution, the Holocaust even, serial killers, what else is politics, of course, literary figures, suicide, anorexia, which Richey Edwards was severely suffering from, depression, he was suffering from that. There's a song on here called 4 Stone 7 Pounds, which is about anorexia. He was writing about himself. The album became a classic because Richey Edwards was just suffering from alcoholism, anorexia, depression. He was seeking help. He was going in and out of treatment, even in an institution. And here's Richey's story very quickly. On the eve of going to America, he checked out of his hotel. He left behind his credit cards. He left behind his passport. And they couldn't find him. No word, no note, no nothing. And I think maybe about a week later, they found his car parked near what's called the Severn Bridge, which was outside of Bristol. And it's a notorious suicide spot. And but the thing was, the week before that, he had been withdrawing like 200 pounds a day from his bank account. They don't know where it went. And he was an avid reader, which is why they're so literate in their lyrics that he would write. And part of what he would read about was living off the grid. So he was a fanatic when it came to his lyric writing and his reading. And he would write the lyrics, and Bradfield would pretty much play all the guitars and write the music. So it's kind of an interesting thing. In fact, even live, Richey Edwards, if he didn't really, he was jumping around looking like he was playing the rhythm, but if you listen to it, if Bradfield would go to lead, you wouldn't really hear a rhythm. So I don't really know if he was really playing much even live. Yeah, he just had so much on his plate, mental issues, and all of this would contribute to him disappearing. You know, it was just, it's such a mystery. Nobody knows what happened to him. No suicide note. He has never been seen since. And we're talking like 1995, I guess, is when he disappeared. So it's an amazing, amazing story. And to this day, by the way, when the band plays live, they have a microphone set up where he would have been. And I believe they still have a bank account set up for him for his share of the royalties, which is so cool. As far as the Holy Bible go, the 3 big songs, I think, is Faster. She is Suffering is an amazing track. Revol's a great one. There's a lot of great songs on there, but it's a tough listen. It's dark, but it's also very punkish. So that's the Holy Bible, and basically Richey Edwards' kind of story in a nutshell. That album peaked at number 6 in the UK, did not chart in the US. Now you go to 1996, and this album, the first album they do as a trio without Richey Edwards, and that's Everything Must Go. And this is really the Manics that I prefer. I think they have a more mature sound, more like a rock and roll band, not just a punk kind of a loud, screaming kind of a band. And they became superstars, stadium sellers everywhere but in the U.S. This album peaked at number 2 in the U.K., didn't chart in the U.S. A Design for Life is a classic. Kevin Carter is a great one. The title track is great. I just really love this album. Australia, that's a great one. This album also had 5 singles, I believe it was. So a great, great album. Everything Must Go from the Manics, as they like to let people call them. The album they did after that is this one. This one came out in 1998 in the UK. Hit number one, their first number one album over there. And this is my favorite Manics album so far. This is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. This is a deluxe edition with a bonus live CD. And this album also had like a bunch, I think maybe even 5 singles also. The Everlasting is great. If you tolerate this, Your Children Will Be Next. That's one of my favorites. Check that one out. That's amazing. Tsunami is really good. I love everything on this album. Nobody Loved You. That's another really good one. You Stole the Sun from My Heart. That's a great one. So this is my favorite Manics album so far. And again, hit number one in the UK. The US wouldn't even release it. They didn't have a record label for them in the US. And it finally got released a year later, I guess in 1999 on Virgin. So how depressing is that? Number one album over there. Couldn't even get it released here in the U.S. The next one is this one, 2001, and that's Know Your Enemy. And this peaked at number 2 in the U.K. In the U.S., didn't chart again. This is not considered one of their best albums, but lo and behold, it's got like 4 singles. Also, ones I remember, I Found That Soul, Ocean Spray is really good. It's another fine album. What's that other one? So Wise, So Sad. Another literate album, not considered one of their best, and it's an album that I'm still listening to, so I'm not an expert on it at this point. After that, they did Lifeblood, which I just got into the database officially last year. I put it in. Maybe it was even earlier this year. 2004, this one came out. Now, this one, remember they had a number 1, number 2. This one peaked at number 13, so didn't really get the respect that a lot of, well, I think it's really good. It's more commercial. Love of Richard Nixon's a great one. Empty Souls is a great one. I actually really like this album a lot. It's a more mature, latter-day Manic Street Preachers album, so if you're expecting the Holy Bible, you might be a little bit disappointed. But keep an open mind. Now, this one I have not listened to yet. Look at this. This is beautiful packaging. Send Away to Tigers from 2007. Return to Form hit number 2 in the UK. Didn't chart in America. And this is a lot of their albums. They're so big, they repackage their albums over and over again in the UK, including big box sets. But this is, when you look at their albums, they always have quotes, very literary quotes all over their albums. And this is the packaging on the one that I have. This is all UK import stuff. And we don't take photographs with our cameras. We take them with our hearts. We take them with our minds. They love to quote things. This is got the CD, and it's got B-sides and a DVD. A lot of really cool stuff on here. I know a lot of these tracks that have best ofs. Your Love Alone Is Not Enough. And Autumn Song, Indian Summer. That's a really good one. This is Send Away to Tigers. And this one came out in 2007, hit number 2. This one I have not played yet. This is Journal for Plague Lovers. You can see I paid $4.99 for it. I have not heard it yet. This came out in 2009, hit number 3 in the UK. And in the United States, it hit 0, like all their albums. And then you got this one, Postcard. And by the way, that album, Journal for Plague Lovers, I believe is leftover lyrics from Richey Edwards that they took those lyrics and made the album. So that's pretty cool. Postcards from a Young Man came out in 2010. Also hit number 3. You can see the price I paid for it used here in the U.S. I have not heard this album yet. It is also in my backlog, but I'm trying to show you. Number 3 in the good old U.S., didn't chart at all. That's the last album that I own as far as studio records. But they didn't stop. They have Rewind the Film from 2013, hit number 4. Futurology hit number 2 in 2014. Resistance and Futile in 2018 also hit number 2. And then they returned to the number 1 spot with the Ultra Vivid Lament from 2021, which is, I believe, their last studio record. I have 2 compilation albums. They're both doubles, and I love both of them. And this one's called Forever Delayed. Manic Street Preachers, The Greatest Hits. and this is a deluxe edition. And if you don't know them, this is what I would recommend you doing, because this is what I did. I started with this album, and you just get a great summation of their career. You also get Suicide is Painless, which is the theme song for MASH, the TV show, and they do a rockin' version of it. And when I got this album and I heard that, I was like, that is just killer. But I fell in love with this whole album. This is a great summation of the career up to that point, and I highly recommend it. And it did well. This peaked at number 4 on the UK charts. And this is the album that I first got from them, and I love it. That also had a bonus DVD. And then there's another greatest hits here, which is called National Treasures, the complete singles. And this one came out in 2011, hit number 10. And some overlap from the other one, but you get 2 discs worth of best ofs and a lot of the latter stuff that I know some of these songs, but haven't heard the full albums yet. So, another even more improved summation of the Manic Street Preachers' career. So that is the Manics, as a lot of people call them, a huge legendary band from across the pond. And again, virtually unknown in the U.S. Now, there might be some people in the U.S. saying, what are you talking about? I know them. So here's the proof. Here's their discography, my cheat sheet I was looking at over there. Studio albums, Generation Terrorist, 13 hit. Gold Against the Soul, number 8. Holy Bible, number 6. Everything Must Go, number 2. This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, number 1. Know Your Enemy, 2001 hit number 2. Lifeblood, 13. Send Away the Tigers, number 2. Journal for Plague Lovers, number 3. Postcards from a Young Man, number 3. Rewind the Film, number 4. Futurology, number 2 it hit. Resistance is Futile, number 2. The Ultra Vivid Lament hit number 1. And what did it hit in the United States? 0. They have never had a single charting album in the United States. That says it all, folks. That says it all. So that's the Manic Street Preachers. What I would love to hear is what you think about them. Because if you're across the pond and you've seen them live, whether in arenas or stadiums, I would love to hear. The only experience I've seen from them is on the CDs and on the videos, because some of these are deluxe editions. They got DVDs, which I love. Unfortunately for me, somehow I missed it. I think last year they actually played the United States with Suede, a band that I love, that I'm going to do a video on them for UK versus US, because I think Suede are incredible. And they played with Suede as a double bill here in the United States, and I didn't even know about it. They didn't play here on Long Island. I finally heard about it well after the tour was over, and I'm like, I didn't even know they played. So, bummer for me. But I know they're currently touring across the pond as a double. And what a set that's got to be. Suede and Manic Street Preachers. I wish I could see that. So that's my story. I hope you enjoy this. If you're new to my channel, please hit subscribe. Check out my other videos. I got playlists. And if you're interested in this UK versus US, it's kind of an interesting topic that I came up with. I hope you'll agree. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching me. I appreciate your loyalty. And I will see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.